What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome along with Tyler Stafford, and we are going to bring you breathless play by play, inning by inning breakdown of Thursday night's Astros Rays game at Dyken Park. Tyler, would you like to take the first inning or should I?
So I let my daughter, since it was her birthday, we stayed up until the inning where Altuve hit the home run, um, which is her short friend, as we mentioned on the last podcast. He hit home run. It's 3-3. I'm like, all right, it's bedtime. I go and rock her. 5 minutes later, I walk out and it's 8-3, and I was like, what in the world happened? And I'll be honest, that gave me all of the ammo that I needed to continue watching the Pee Wee Herman documentary on HBO. So I did
Ooh,
not watch the remainder. It's really good. You should
how's
watch
it?
it.
Yeah, how was the Pee Wee
It's
Herman
great.
documentary?
I am a big fan of one like the Pee Wee Herman movie. I never really saw the show, but Paul Rubens. I'm also. I don't know if you can see back here. This is a Comedy Bang Bang
Mhm.
record. I'm a gigantic nerd for Comedy Bang Bang, and Scott Ackerman, the host of that, was friends with Paul Rubens, and so he would come on. So anyway, I'm a fan of all of that, and the documentary is really really good. So highly recommend that to everybody.
When I was younger, I was obsessed with. I think it was in Pee Wee's Big Adventure where they have like the Rube Goldberg that makes him breakfast every morning.
Yes.
I was obsessed with that. I think I asked my parents once, "Can you make me the exact breakfast that Pee Wee Herman got from the Rube Goldberg?" And they were just like, "Yeah, we'll make you eggs and toast and a
Mm-hmm.
waffle." Cool.
That's
Um,
that's close enough.
you had a better use of your time last night than
Mm-hmm.
watching. That was a 3 hour and 17 minute game that I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure everyone watched every minute of and
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed. No, the Astros lost 13-3. Their bullpen had been so good for all year. They were due a clunker of a game, and man, did they deliver! That was a Brian King did not pitch well. Forrest Whitley came in, did not pitch well. Caleb Ort walked a bunch of guys. Two of those three guys have been good all year for you, and Orton King. Whitley is kind of the mop up guy. He gave up some rockets, but yeah, it's just you flush that. You have Framber Valdez going today. Ryan Gusto getting 11 outs did not help. That is a longer term conversation that we will have at some point. But today we want to do something a little bit different. Tyler, I did something extremely stupid last week.
Mm-hmm.
I know it'll shock you. I gave fans another reason to yell at me
Mm-hmm.
by participating in the Athletics all quarter century project, and I named or I formulated what I believe to be the Astros all quarter century team for the Athletic. Now, for those that need to define this a little bit, that is 2000 through 2025. That actually coincides with when the Astros moved to what was then Enron Field, so you could make it as the Astros downtown ballpark team because they've had five names since then, so we can't call it one name. But a lot of things coincided, and um, going into it, I was a little. I just thought, okay, I'm just going to write the 2019 team. I'm going to write the
Yeah.
2019 lineup out, and that'll be the all century team. But it was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be for a franchise that is in the middle of its golden era, that has had almost all of its franchise's success in the last 7 or 8 years. Um, the beginning of this century in the 2000s, like there were some difficult positions to narrow down. There were some difficult decisions to make. It was a much harder assignment than I thought it would be.
Yeah, you also got kind of shortchanged where the two legends of the before times, were past their peak at 2000, right? So that's your
Yeah.
cutoff. So if you're looking at it of like from 2000 on, I mean, I read your article and it was like, you know, Craig Biggio has to be on here, and I agree, but also, he was a shell of the unbelievable player that he was in the 90s. By the time he came 2000, did you know I was at his last game?
The 3000th hit or the
No, no,
his
no. His
last
last,
hit?
his actual
Okay.
last game. So the beginning of the season, before tickets went on sale, before he had announced that he was retiring, I was like, Dad, it's year 20. He's 40. Like, he's gonna retire. We should buy tickets to the last game just in case. And so we were like 20 rows up on the first base side. That was our big splurge for the year. And then it was a weird position for me as a child because throughout the year I was like, I need him to announce that he's retiring because we spent like 4 games worth of money on this one game at the very end of the season, and they're not very good. So it's not even like an exciting game other than he was there. And I remember it's silly looking back now, but I remember being very upset that he came out of the game in like the 6th or 7th inning so that everyone could cheer for him.
Yeah.
But I was like, how dare you take away another at bat from me? I wanted to watch him. But yeah, I was there last game. I got a picture with my dad there. Pretty cool memory.
Yeah, that's super cool. Including Biggio kind of was the reason why this became such a laborsome exercise. And before we get really into it, for those that haven't read it, we'll start with the position players and then we'll talk about the pitching staff later. But here are the position players that I put on my team on the Athletic. You can read it if you'd like. Lance Berkman at first base, Craig Biggio at second, Carlos Correa at short, Alex Bregman at third, Jason Castro at catcher, Jose Altuve in left field, George Springer in center field, Kyle Tucker in right field, and Jeff Bagwell is the designated hitter. Now, Biggio, I wrote this. Among the Astros position players who had more WAR than Craig Biggio beginning in 2000, among them are Richard Hidalgo, Morgan Ensberg, and Hunter Pence. Craig Biggio had a 95 OPS plus from 2000 to 2007 when he retired. He was a below average major league player. It by all stats and by all like counting stats and value and things like that, he should not have been on this team. Tyler, I couldn't make myself do that though, because for a couple reasons. One, he's Craig Biggio. And two, when you start to do these things, you do have to consider impact. You have to consider like because you're writing this for the fans. Like I'm not writing this for my own health or for myself. I'm writing this for fans to read and engage and debate, and they certainly have. But Craig Biggio's 3,000th hit at what was it Enron Field still? I don't remember.
No, it was Minute Maid at that point.
Craig Biggio's 3,000th hit at Minute Maid Park was and still is perhaps the most seminal, seismic regular season moment in that ballpark's history. And it happened in this quarter century. I could not live with myself if I didn't put Craig Biggio on this list. Am I missing the point? Like you've been following this team much longer than I have. Am I missing the point here?
No, he has to be on there. It's Craig Biggio. It's wild that you have 2 Hall of Fame second basemen that you have to juggle. I mean, for as scary as first base has been for the Astros for a while, second base has been locked down for the better part of a quarter century, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, you got to include Biggio for sure. I assume Roger Cedeno was right off your list of honorable mentions at shortstop. But no, I mean, I thought you did a really good job. It's a hard task to do. I think it would be fun. I mean, you don't have to do this, obviously. It would also be interesting to do one of like best seasons of the quarter century mark too, and not, in totality, because then you can sneak in a Morgan Ensberg reference or, things like that. But no, I thought you did really, really good. Outfield was hard, man. That's the only one I'm going to nitpick you on.
Okay.
Actually, I have 2 that I'm going to nitpick you on. I lied. Kyle Tucker is amazing. He's going to be a better player. For impact of like who I think of in right field for the Astros, it's Hunter Pence for me for this quarter century, especially because you were not watching at the time. There was not a soul on that team for those 6 years that was worth watching outside of Hunter Pence. Like you circled like, oh, he's up 6 batters from now. We get like it's go time. Hunter Pence is coming back up. And so for me, like he's always going to be the guy that I think of in right field. Again, Kyle Tucker is a better player and was a better player, had, bigger moments. But for me, Hunter Pence is that guy out there. That's nitpicking. And then the other one and this is just so people can hate you more. I know Jason Castro is good. I watched him for a long time. It's Martin Maldonado, man. Like he's the catcher of this quarter century of the Astros, and I know he was not anywhere near as good numbers wise at catcher, and again, Jason Castro really served that role that Hunter Pence did, where it's like, man, there is nobody good on this team. I'll always remember his lone All Star nod. He did deserve it, I will say. It wasn't one of those that like, oh, you got to give it to somebody. He was one of the better catchers in the league at the time, but I think it's Martin Maldonado. Did you struggle with that one?
I mean, I did, because you look at, and I didn't want to make this a war exercise, just like write the go to each position and write the guy that led in war at each. That's why Craig Biggio is on this list. And Jason Castro lapped like everyone else.
For sure.
Tony Eusebio, Brad Ausmus, Martin Maldonado, like insert old catcher here. Jason Castro lapped them in every statistical measure, and I thought it was too drastic to leave him off. That's just my thought. But Martin Maldonado, and I may be talking out of both sides of my mouth here, because when I was talking about Biggio, I talked about impact and that moment and the impact Craig Biggio had as a figure. Martin Maldonado's impact on those teams from 2018 to 2022 can't be explained, can't be the problem is it can't be quantified. Like, I can't point to a number that said Martin Maldonado is the reason for this. Like the ERA, like they had great pitching in those stretches. Like, everyone's going to credit the pitcher, because as they should, they're the ones throwing the ball. But Martin Maldonado had a ton to do with that. Martin Maldonado, as we know, offered nothing with the bat, but they constructed their roster knowing Martin Maldonado offered nothing with the bat. Looking back, that is probably the one that I would change if I could. I also wanted to give Jason Castro just a little, a little props for, like you just mentioned, being the one guy during probably the most dreadful era of this franchise's existence, those 4 or 5 years, like sticking that out. And then let's not forget, like, Jason Castro came back in 2021, 2022, and played
awesome.
well, played well in the backup role, had a huge hit off Nate Eovaldi at Fenway Park to tie the game. And I believe that was game 3 of that ALCS, game 3 or game 4. And the floodgates opened after that. So it's not as if Jason Castro had no impact on this golden era. Like, he had a huge hit in the 2021 playoffs, was on the 2022 World Series team. But yeah, that was the tough one. And then I think the other one that a lot of fans yelled at me about, Yordan Alvarez is not on this team. And I'm going to explain my rationale. We're going to talk about why right after a message from our friends at Foul Territory.
The weather is warming up, and with that being said, you need to check out what Rhoback is bringing to the table. If you're a golfer, especially, and you're looking for golf shirts that just have the perfect style and also are soft, they're lightweight, and perfect for the summertime, Rhoback is the spot. Of course, FT's hooking you up with a code for 20% off at rhoback.com. That's FOUL on RHOBACK.com for 20% off all shorts, hoodies, polos, and more.
So not having Yordan Alvarez on the team is probably a direct result of having Craig Biggio on the team. So if I omit Craig Biggio, Jose Altuve goes from left field to second base. Lance Berkman may get into the outfield. Not sure. If I can put Lance Berkman in the outfield, I can put Jeff Bagwell at first base. That opens the DH for Yordan Alvarez. Now, Jeff Bagwell, it should be noted, had a horrific shoulder, had a degenerative shoulder condition for the entire time frame that we're talking about here. He could not throw. I know we're not constructing this team as if it's going to take the field tomorrow and play, but it didn't feel wise to put a guy that can't throw at first base if we're doing this fictional exercise. Lance Berkman, by the way, can we talk about how underrated Lance Berkman is? Like,
he's so good, man.
Like, I cannot believe he fell off the Hall of Fame ballot after 1 year. Like, I mean, don't
talk to me about that. I'm still very angry.
I don't, in my heart of hearts, I do not think he is a Hall of Famer, but he deserved far more judicious look than falling off of the BBWA ballot after 1 year. And that was just a byproduct of he was on a loaded ballot. Bonds and Clemens were still there. Edgar was on. I think when he was on the ballot, I believe they had like 7 or 8 Hall of Famers on the ballot. So tough for him. But yes, I think we need to shine a light on how good Lance Berkman was and could have made been in many different positions on this team.
It also, I mean, again, growing up here, the fact that he went to Rice and then came and was, immediately a superstar for the Astros. I loved watching him as a switch hitter and how different he was from, there are some guys that just, they switch hit and you almost forget about it because you don't like Victor Carantini. I'm aware as a switch hitter. I do not think of him in that. Like, I know there's no difference to that. Right. There was a very real difference in the type of hitter that Lance Berkman was, right-handed and left-handed. Famously, when the Astros hosted the All-Star game, he participated in the home run derby right-handed, which is insane, and was great. I mean, part of it was like, I don't want to mess up my left-handed good swing, but he was like this slap. He was such a weird hitter right-handed, and it made every game really interesting because opposing managers would always want to bring in a lefty to face him, and he swung so differently. Like, it's really hard to explain unless you go back and just watch like the differences between those two switch hitters. But it was like night and day, but he was good at both of them, but they were just such different things. So it made him really interesting to watch. And Lance Berkman was so good. So good for the Astros. Had the classic, Taos Hill catch. Like, anytime someone plays a highlight reel of Taos Hill, you're going to see Lance, sitting on his butt, throwing the ball back in. So yeah, you have to have him on there. I will say for Bagwell, I don't care that he can't throw. I need him there covering bunts. Jeff Bagwell would stand in the batter's box whenever someone was going to bunt. I mean, he was like closer than the pitcher, and that always made it really interesting to watch. That was my favorite thing. Anytime someone bunted, I played first base growing up, and I did the same thing. I would just charge in for bunts. So I'd rather see him out there. And also, it feels wrong to have him as a DH because we were a proper country back then. And didn't have a designated hitter for Jeff Bagwell other than the like 4 at-bats he took in the World Series as a DH and pinch hitter. So, but yeah, I'm on a tangent here, but Lance Berkman was incredible. I loved watching him play.
So the Yordan thing was hard. It was hard to leave Yordan off for who he is. When you started to look at it, though, I mean, this is a guy that he doesn't do a lot other than hit. Like, his value is directly tied to his bat, and his bat is incredible. I mean, like, we don't need to talk about how good Yordan is, but just on this team, it felt like I was either going to have to leave Yordan Alvarez off, or I was going to have to leave one of Craig Biggio or Jeff Bagwell off. Yeah. And that is a difficult circumstance to confront. Jeff Bagwell, to me, even though he retired in 2005, he had a 135 OPS plus from 2005. He was still like an amazing hitter. Yep. And obviously the defense, through no fault of his own, his body betrayed him, but the defense fell off and he wasn't able to physically continue playing. But he did play both ways, was an elite hitter in that span. Yordan has missed some time. He's been injured. But when he's been on the field, I mean, you can't discount what he has done. Was I misguided in leaving Yordan Alvarez off this team, or how would you have constructed to get him on this team?
No, I think you're right. If this were 3 years from now at the end of his contract, I think you'd have to put Yordan on there. But the hard stop of this year, I think you're able to leave him off. I think the value that he'll produce over his Astros tenure will be more than that. And maybe when you're writing for the Athletic Plus, brought to you by Google VR or whatever in 2050, you'll be able to add him on there somewhere. But No, I mean it's tough. It's a good team, man. Which is wild for me growing up with the Astros that I grew up in, which is the Astros had two good players for the majority of their franchise history, and now it's like, oh, what are we gonna do with all these good players to put on the field? So I'm with you. I think you have to have Bagwell and Biggio on there. Um, like I said, I think maybe for the Century team, there will be uh, bigger gaps. But for right now, I think you are correct to have them in there.
I mean, you just mentioned that's what was so like eye opening about this because, like I mentioned earlier, like I just thought I was going to write the 2019 Astros out and that's their all quarter century team. But then, like, you start to look at some of these guys that like I debated, including like Richard Hidalgo, like that dude
Doggy.
could hit.
Mm,
Like, and I mean, there was a very real debate. It's like, oh, do you include him over Kyle Tucker in right field? Like that was something I really considered. And but Tucker's base running, Tucker's defense, obviously, are massive pluses in his direction. But I mean, you look at some of the guys that you leave off. I mean, you talked about Hunter Pence already. Morgan Ensberg was excellent in this time, but it's really hard if you're going to go with impact as the thing that you want to prioritize. It's hard to not look at the impact that the guys like the Altuve, Bregman, Correa,
yeah.
that core. It's hard to look at them and not put all of them on the team because they are the faces of this era, and this era has defined the Astros. Like, I mean, all due respect to Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell, but like when you're talking about the Astros in 25, 30 years, when AI is writing for the Athletic, sponsored by whatever, like I don't have a job, AI is doing this, but when AI is talking about it in 25, 30 years, they'll talk about this run. Like,
Yep.
like Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell will be mentioned, but like they're going to talk about this run. And this is like the defining era of this franchise. And it was difficult to not include as many of those guys as possible.
Did you play All-Star Baseball on N64?
I played MVP baseball on
Oh,
GameCube with Albert Pujols
okay.
on the cover.
Yes. All-Star Baseball 2001 for the N64. Richard Hidalgo is so good in that game because it was the first year after their first year at Enron, and I think Hidalgo had 97 home runs in 2000. Dude also had a cannon. He was so good in the outfield. No one ran on him. He was very fun to watch. But yes, playing that game with the little yellow square to hit with, he was untouchable when I would beat all of my friends at All Star Baseball.
This was also an interesting exercise to see like what fans value the most when they're putting these teams together. Like I had a ton of people that wanted Michael Brantley on the team, and I think the world of Michael Brantley. One of the smoothest left-handed swings you will ever see. Defines the term consummate professional. Did more inside the clubhouse, behind the scenes, than I think anyone knows about. And I think that's been written a lot what he has done, but he did more back there than I think anyone knows about. But I mean, Carlos Lee was worth more WAR than Michael Brantley in this time frame. He missed too much time, did not provide much value defensively, aside from that wonderful double play in Game 6 of the 2019 ALCS. I know everyone liked his nickname. I know everyone liked that he and George Springer changed a tire once. But yeah, no, like you can't convince me that Michael Brantley. What about Carlos Lee? We need to talk about Carlos Lee.
Carlos Lee was awesome, man. I mean, you could pencil him in for 100 RBI every year. Another just really fun player to watch. The Astros had a good run of left fielders. Moises Alou, I know that was like late 90s, but he was in there at the beginning. I think I don't have it pulled up, but I'm pretty sure he was in there in the Brick Reds. He was really good. But yeah, Carlos Lee was a really, really good hitter. And I remember being very excited because I used to hate watching him on the Brewers. He would ruin my life. I feel like I've said this before. I feel like they played them every Sunday afternoon. I know that that's not true, but in my head, Sunday afternoon baseball is the Astros versus Brewers. I need someone to figure out why I think that. There must have been a 3-year stretch when I was a kid where the schedule, for whatever reason, they did play a lot of Sunday afternoon. But I swear to you, they played 80% of their Sunday afternoon baseball games against the Brewers. So I always pictured Carlos Lee and friggin' Ben Sheets ruining my life too. But yes, was very excited when Carlos Lee joined my team because he was a really, really good hitter.
Fantastic defender too. Standout defender in left field at Minute Maid Park.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about the all quarter century pitching staff right after a message from our friends at Foul Territory.
FT fam, you might have a boring, old, crusty, unpretty razor, and it might be expensive. So, AJ, should they consider another option?
Look how cool this is. Look at the color scheme. Look at it. Little sheath to hide the blades when you travel. Works great. I've been using this for a couple weeks now with Harry's. Clean, no bumps, no cuts. Works great. And you know the best part? It's a great price, especially if you use the Foul Territory code, Scott.
That's right. Harrys.com/foul. Guess what? You can also get yourself a no-risk trial. So if you don't like your shave, no worries. It's on Harry's. They're not worried about it. Get the edge on your shave with Harry's. Normally, the trial set is $10. But right now, you can get it for just $6 at harrys.com/foul. Use the exclusive link, harrys.com/foul, for a $6 trial set.
The pitching staff was difficult to put together. We'll get to the closer in a minute, and that I actually had a different closer in there, and then at the last moment deleted it in favor of who I ended up picking. But as we should start with the starting rotation. The starting rotation that I picked for the all quarter century team was Justin Verlander, Roy Oswalt, Garrett Cole, Dallas Keuchel, and Roger Clemens. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those guys. I think Verlander and Oswalt are locks. Like that is like, you can't, we're not even going to waste our energy talking about them. Roy Oswalt, I even wrote this there, like he may be one of the more underrated just players in certainly in Astros history, maybe in like the last 20, 30, like he was unbelievably good, and the longevity and the amount of volume innings he threw and how good he was. And he got a tractor from Drayton McClain. So those two were locks. I can hear debate on the other three. What did you think of this 5-man rotation?
I just want to talk about Roy Oswalt for a minute. Far and away my favorite pitcher growing up. He was so fun to watch. The curveball that he threw was like poetry. I loved watching him pitch. You would have loved that every game was an hour and a half long. He pitched very, very fast. But I agree. If he played for a real team in that era, he would be a Hall of Famer. Like he was so good. I want to say he started like 18-0 against the Reds too, which was really fun. Like he just dominated the Reds for a good chunk of his career. So durable, like you said, pitched a ton of innings. Just an incredible pitcher. And you know the story of him fixing his arm. Do you know that story?
I don't think so.
So he was, I think, in the minor leagues. I'm gonna butcher this, but I believe in the minor leagues he was having arm trouble, and he went to go like work on his car engine, and it shocked him, like he was messing with it, and that fixed his arm. Like his arm was fine after that, and then he threw like 250 innings a year. So I think of that every time I apply jumper cables to my car. Maybe I'll rookie of the year myself and become an all-star pitcher like Roy Oswalt, shocking something into my arm. But he was incredible. I agree. Those two are locks. Oswalt and Verlander are in there. My biggest hot take, Garrett Cole is the better pitcher. I agree. Wandy Rodriguez should be in over him. He was awesome, again, as a lefty. Another great curveball. Just very, very fun to watch. He was on the team forever too. But he was also a very good pitcher in an era where it was tough to be a pitcher. I I mean, again, like Garrett Cole is way better. Like I'm not going to argue over that. But you already have, another short season or a short stint guy in Roger Clemens. And I think Clemens did more when you think of like Astros impact.
Yes.
I mean, he had some big moments too, passing the Walter Johnson strikeout record, I think, in an Astros uniform. He was still awesome at like 42, just pumping splitters. I think I've told this story too, but we had like a partial season ticket plan that was in the like 4-seat row directly next to the Astros bullpen in like 2004, 2005. So we would get there early to watch them warm up in the bullpen before they'd go out. And the sound that the glove made when Roger Clemens was warming up, I will never forget. Like it sounded unlike anything I'd ever heard. I swear he was throwing 200 miles an hour. Like I don't know what they were doing to make the glove pop the way that it did. But man, he was awesome. Other than the All-Star game that he came in and pitched, that was unfortunate. I think he had like a 1.5 ERA coming into the game, and he gave up like 4 runs in the first inning of the All-Star game. But yeah, I mean, to me, I would have Wandy over Garrett Cole. I think Keuchel is another lock. I don't think you can talk about the Astros of this quarter century without talking about Dallas Keuchel. But yeah, I think I'd have Wandy in over Cole, but I completely understand why you would have Cole in.
I think Keuchel represents so much of like how this quarter century turned for the Astros. Like he was not good his first couple of years here. Brent Strom got here. They put their pitching infrastructure into place and they turned him into a Cy Young winner. Like,
oh, he grew a beard. That's what fixed it.
All that too. And I mean, but you look at this is what they do now. Like Dallas Keuchel was the archetype of what we see now with the Astros. They get pitchers that are middling or not great, and they see some stuff they can change with them, and they tell them to do it. And not all of them become Cy Young winners, but Dallas Keuchel did. And Dallas Keuchel, was the ace for the team that started this era. And for a while, they had the Keuchel's Corner little beard section at Minute Maid Park, which like
I had one at one point. I sat there, yeah.
Like that got people to come back. Like, I mean, because a lot of people were disenchanted by what had happened the last, 3 and 4 years previous. They had watched this team lose 100 games, and I'm not saying they needed to give out fake beards to get people to come back, but like Dallas Keuchel became appointment television. It became appointment TV to watch Dallas Keuchel pitch for the Astros in 2015. Just like when Correa got called up, the fans flocked there. When Altuve would come up, like that was the beginning of what you see now. And Wandy Rodriguez, you were right. He's got the 3rd highest FWAR in the past quarter century among pitchers, behind only Verlander and Oswalt in an Astros uniform.
That rules.
You could also make a case for Fromber. Fromber's
sure.
right. Fromber's right behind Wandy Rodriguez. Like you could make a legitimate case that Fromber Valdez should be on this team. And I know like there's been a ton of inconsistencies with him, but the body of work by and large, the volume of innings he has pitched, I would listen to that argument any day of the week that Fromber Valdez should be on this team.
Yeah, I mean, he suffers from his peak being while there were other aces on the team. If he were on the team when at the same time that Keuchel was or whatever, when there's like no one else worth watching, I think he stands out a lot more. And you're seeing that this year, that not a lot of pitchers on the Astros right now. And you do kind of breathe a sigh of relief when it's a Fromber day, in the same way that you did with Keuchel in 2015. But yeah, I mean, Fromber again has been incredible. I understand leaving him off the list, but another really, really good pitcher for the Astros.
Yeah, and like the Wandy thing, I think a lot of it was impact too. Like Wandy Rodriguez was really, really good, but he didn't pitch on a bunch of good teams. Like, I mean, and he was not and a lot of it's not his fault. He can only pitch around the roster he's on. So, but I think Garrett. The reason I included Garrett Cole, the 2 seasons he pitched in Houston were so otherworldly good.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to ignore that, and the impact of like, I mean, look, they're going to go. They would have steamrolled to the 2019 World Series to get to the World Series. They probably, if Garrett Cole was like a normal pedestrian pitcher, because like the roster around them was so good, but like the dominance that he and Verlander showcased that season, like they put that team on their back like every time they went out there. Like it was an automatic win. And it's hard to ignore that level of elite performance, even though it was in such a small sample. It was a 2-season thing, but that's where I was coming from with that. And it was a little more hard. It was also hard with Roger Clemens. Like Roger Clemens wasn't here for that long. He won a Cy Young. I mean, he was really, really good and helped them get to a World Series, just like Garrett Cole did. So I kind of put those two together a little bit. And, you know, maybe I could have shown a little more deference to a guy like Wandy Rodriguez, who, if I'm going to talk about Jason Castro, throwing him a bone for being in an awful fallow era of Astros baseball, maybe I could have done that with Wandy Rodriguez. But to me, it just felt like Garrett Cole's peak was too dominant to ignore.
Maybe you could put Garrett Cole on the quarter century Scott Boras representing himself team. He can be on that one.
I think that's
part of it for sure.
That soured a lot of people, and I understand. I think that was a rough situation all around. I know Garrett. I know Garrett, and that is not him. That was a tough moment in one of the most despondent sports environments I've ever seen, that clubhouse after Game 7 of the 2019 World Series. And let's also note that the whole reason that got out was against MLB's media guidelines. One of the television stations in town was running live from the clubhouse, which you're not supposed to do. And that got out. That should never have gotten out. Like would it have been written? Probably. But that fact that the video got out, and that damaged it a lot more. And that was not Garrett Cole's fault. That was not the Astros' fault. That was a television station that didn't know what they were doing and disobeyed media regulations and made a blow up, made a story. But let's go to the closer. When I put this file into our CMS, our thing to file this story, I had Brad Lidge as the Astros closer on this all quarter century team. I then decided to go with Ryan Presley because, again, like you cannot ignore what Ryan Presley did in the playoffs. Like he is behind Mariano Rivera, probably one of the second or third best playoff reliever of this era. And it is hard to ignore that. He closed out the only World Series ever won on Texas soil by a Texas team. He had a 22 and a third inning streak without allowing an earned run that got snapped in last year's wild card series. That was a hard decision, because if you look at Lidge and Presley's counting stats in the regular season during their Astros 10 years of this era, it's basically the same. Like they were the same pitcher. I just thought that the postseason needs to win out over, and I'm not holding the Pujols homer off of Brad Lidge against him, but
they won that series.
They did win that series, and Brad Lidge, did well, but like Presley's sustained postseason success was too difficult for me to ignore, and that's why I changed it at the end.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, obviously, they also had a guy named Billy Wagner, who was a pretty good closer for a while for the Astros. So you had a lot to choose from. It's always bothered me that Brad Lidge immediately got postseason success with the Phillies, and the Astros only traded him because they were bad. If the Astros had been good, he would have continued to be on the Astros. I mean, he had an unbelievable run with the Phillies after being awesome with the Astros. Another really fun thing about Brad Lidge was watching him kind of graduate to that closer role. There was a year where he was the seventh inning guy, and then it was Octavio Dotel and then Billy Wagner, and it felt like if the Astros had a lead in the 6th inning, the game was over. Like there's no way that you were going to score off of those 3 guys. And then he got the setup role and then was the closer. So it was really cool to like see him kind of progress through that after being drafted by the Astros. I am with you. Like you're gonna think of more Ryan Presley highlights because the team was a lot better. I think if you could like drop in one or the other in their peak in a World Series game, I think I would probably lean Lidge a little bit more.
Why?
His slider, man, was unhittable. Like he had games where he would come in and it's the classic closer thing where you're like, he's going to strike out 3 guys and make them look silly. It wasn't like, I mean, again, Presley was very, very good. Also struck out a lot of guys, but it was like he's going to get some weak contact, whatever. Like Brad Lidge was going to strike you out. And I don't know. I think it's probably because I was like 13 at the time. So I'm just always going to prefer people from my childhood. But Brad Lidge was so good. So good.
Yeah, and we talked about this when Ryan Presley got traded this offseason, and like the fans like not really like reacting.
Presley's awesome too.
Like it's because Presley doesn't do it like with the like you just talked about, like Brad Lidge. You knew when Brad Lidge went out there, he was going to strike out 3 guys. Like at his best, he was unhittable. At Ryan Presley's best, he can still be hit, but it's not going to be like rockets. It's going to be ground balls. It's going to be like weak pop-ups. He doesn't do it as with the dominant, like visceral dominance as like a guy like Josh Hader, who can make you look silly with a 99-mile-an-hour sinker and a slider. Like he doesn't get on, like Presley's not going to get on Pitching Ninja a bunch. He will, but not a ton. Like that's why. But he just was as consistent and steady. And when he can do that in the postseason, I think that outweighs a lot of, I mean, that's the difference maker for me, because Lidge and Presley, they both played 6 seasons in this era. They both had around the same number of saves, around the same WAR. And it's hard to look at it's hard to ignore Presley's postseason career. And you mentioned Billy Wagner. I don't want to get yelled at for leaving off another Hall of Famer. He only played for in this span. Yeah. He was only here from 2000 to 2003. So those other 2 guys had longer stints here in this entire quarter century. So that made it a little bit easier to eliminate Billy Wagner, who was still very, very good. If you were doing this, Tyler, is there, as we wrap this up, is there one guy just that we have talked about that you would say he, like, make whatever roster move you want, like this one guy has to be on this team that's not on this team?
I'd be interested in well, I guess I wouldn't be interested. I know the answer. The manager choice would have to be Hinch, right? Like that. Yeah, that would have to be the manager of the team. Man, they had a lot of good players. Real quick on Brad Lidge, I just want to go. I said peak. Okay, Brad Lidge's peak. Well, first let me do Ryan Presley's peak. So Ryan Presley in 2019 threw 54 innings, 200 ERA plus, 11.9 strikeouts per 9. Unbelievable season. Really, really good. Brad Lidge in 2004 threw 94 innings with a 2.28 ERA plus and 14.9 strikeouts per 9 in 2004. Like crazy. He was so good. So that's when I picture like peak guy of like 2004 Brad Lidge, you weren't getting a hit off of him. He was going to strike you out. So that's why I say like game on the line, which guy are you bringing in their peak? They're both awesome. I would bring in Brad Lidge. For me, there are a lot of like guys that obviously you would not include on this list, but are guys that I think of from this quarter century. One of them is Brandon Backey. Brandon Backey ruled, man. He was a converted outfielder who just came in. I'll never forget his playoff heroics, not only pitching, but he had a pinch hit in the playoffs because he was a converted outfielder, and I'll never forget that. He was awesome that year. I mean, he wasn't he wasn't actually awesome. I'm aware of that, but I loved watching Brandon Backey pitch. That was one I think of. I mean, we mentioned like Morgan Ensberg was really, really good for the Astros. I mean, the second base depth, we've gone 45 minutes. We didn't even mention Jeff Kent was on the Astros and was awesome as well. Willie Taveras is another one that I think of a guy that like just in the down years was a guy like, oh, good, Willie Taveras is coming up. We get to watch him. We mentioned some relievers like Octavio Dotel was awesome.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah, I know that one stung for sure. Loved watching him pitch. Like Jose Valverde had a couple of great years for the Astros. Chad Qualls was really good for the Astros for a long time. He'll always be remembered for falling off the mound in Miami, in that gif of him like fist pumping and then just tripping on the way back. But he was a really good pitcher for the Astros. Yeah, I mean, a lot of good players. I'd be interested to kind of see how this team stacks up against the other quarter century ones. I never in a million years, if you had asked me in 2000, would the Astros be able to compete with any other team at the quarter century mark, I would have said no. So it's interesting that they have had so many good players. But yeah, I mean, a good team. I thought you did a really good job.
Your check's in the mail. Thank you for that. Thank you for that ringing endorsement. I'm still kind of bummed I didn't get Richard Hidalgo on this team. Like I did not realize how good he is. Also mad I didn't get Josh Reddick somewhere on this team. We have to. I think we're contractually obligated to say Josh Reddick should be on this. Cam Smith will be on the next quarter century.
Oh, for sure. He'll be on the all MLB century team.
Yes,
he's coming. Real quick, I also want to point this out to you. Garrett Cole for the Astros threw 412 innings. Brad Lidge threw 401. So, that's why I say Wandy over Garrett Cole, who threw 1,300 innings for the Astros, 3 times as many as Garrett Cole. But that is just as much of a Brad Lidge stat as it is a Garrett Cole stat, because again, he threw 94 innings after throwing 85 his rookie year, where he finished 5th in the rookie of the year voting as a reliever on a not great Astros team. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Richard Hidalgo was really good. Daryl Ward hit a really big home run on opening day against the Pirates one time. I'll always remember that. That was fun. But
Brad Peacock.
Come on. Staff ace, baby.
Shane Reynolds. Let's just start
naming guys. Shane Reynolds was awesome.
Carlos Corporon.
Great. Matt Dominguez. Come on. Robbie Grossman.
Jonathan VR.
Remember when he stole home? That was cool.
LJ Hose.
All-time uniform.
0 Hose.
I mean, come on. Also, that was, I believe, Hader came over in that trade as well, right?
I think so, yeah. That was from Baltimore, yeah.
The Hader and Hose trade is an all-time, like that will be written about forever, that there was a trade for Hader and Hose. For Astros legend Bud Norris, who also held it down for a while. Bud Norris was great. If the team were only having to face the Cardinals in 2009, I would want Bud Norris on the team.
Tony Eusebio. Let's just remember when Colby Rasmus was like the best hitter in baseball for a month and a half in 2015? Like he took a qualifying offer. Like he taught the Astros front office a lesson. Like don't offer qualifying offers to players that may take them, because they will. Yep. But Colby Rasmus was such a good guy, but just had too many outfielders to choose from. Had to settle with Springer, Tucker, and Altuve. Altuve will probably be in the outfield this evening. When
Michael Bourne
ruled.
That dude was fast. Hot take.
Brian Bogusevic. Hit that one grand slam that one time.
That was cool. Wow, Jake Myers has a higher WAR for the Astros than Willie Taveras. That's weird. Mike Lamb Mike Lamb was great. Loved watching him too.
Andy Pettit. Like Andy Pettit was an Astro. Like,
Dude, Andy Pettit would be higher up on this list if he hadn't freaking checked his swing one time and ripped his arm in half. Because he and Clemens came over at the same time, but he missed most of his contract with the Astros because we made pitchers hit back then for some reason. And he like checked his swing and ripped his arm up. And I'll always be mad about that. That rotation was great. That 2004, 2005 pitching staff, like I said, when you had Lidge, Zotel, Wagner at the end, it was Oswalt, Pettit, Clemens. Like, that was a good team.
It was a good team.
Freaking Jeff Blum had to ruin it.
Dude, I just hit a homer. Those teams were good. Those teams were good. These teams have been better. We will get to see that again tonight as the Astros are going to play the Rays. Jose Altuve will probably be in the outfield, just like he was on the outfield on the all-quarter century team, behind Framber Valdez against a Rays team that cannot hit left-handed pitching. So if you are interested in maybe seeing a no-hitter, turn on the TV tonight at 7 o'clock because Framber Valdez could very well do it against a Rays team that is not good against left-handed pitching. If he does throw a no-hitter, or if he doesn't, we'll be back at some point this weekend to recap the Rays series and look ahead to the next road trip to face Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates before they go to Cleveland and face the Guardians in a 3-game set on the weekend. If you want to read more about the all-quarter century team, you can go to The Athletic and go to the Astros page, and it's right there. You can follow me on Twitter at Chandler_Rome. You can follow Tyler at Tyler C. Stafford. Please rate and review us on Apple. Please subscribe on YouTube so you can get notified every time we drop a new video, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.
Let me leave you with this. Brandon Backey and Isak Paredes have the same hitting war for the Astros. Brandon Backey was a really good hitter.
Isak Paredes has been like, oh wow, okay.
He's 0.2 behind Martin Maldonado for career hitting war for the Astros. Brandon Backey was awesome.
Brandon Backey, great. We'll get him as a guest on the pod.
Oh, I'd love that. We can talk about all kinds of things.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. See ya.